بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ومن تبعه بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Very good afternoon. Today we are going to discuss the last topic about Judaism, that is related to rites and rituals as far as religious practice and customs are concerned. And the second part, briefly, we are going to talk about Zionism and the state of Israel. We know that the Jewish people, they are well known about the festivals and the celebrations that have a religious tone. And as we have mentioned previously, in every religion, there are rites and rituals that will make that religion a living way of life. And here the most important ritual in the life of a Jew, it is the what they call it Brit or Brit Milah. That is a covenant of circumcision. So that will be that will be a ritual that will take place after 8 days that a boy is born. And the most important part of this ritual, it is that this will make the child to enter the covenant of Abraham. And this will make a Jewish child to enter the covenant of Abraham. And how this, if we said this is this ritual, it is done in the presence of the priest. Now, of course, that has to do with a minor operation where the father will bring the child to the synagogue and the child will be handled to mohel. Mohel, it is a ritually trained surgeon. And he will receive the child after the child has been taken by relatives. It is like from the mother and other relatives, and then the child will be passed to mohel. During the time, the mother of the child should be staying separately in a room. And the most important thing here, that the child will be held by the godfather. So the term that is used here for godfather, it is sandek. And he is going to hold the child before the operation is taking place. It means that the child will be held by the sandik. Then the sandik is going to help the mohel while he's doing the operation or the circumcision process. And they believe that, of course, during the time of the prophet Elijah, or that the chair symbolizes redemption. So it means that during that time, the child is going to be put by the mohel on the chair of Elijah, the prophet, that symbolizes the redemption for the child. And now later on, the actual process of this circumcision, it will take place the moment that the child, after this circumcision is taking place, the child will be handled to the father or to any other guest of honor that is present in the synagogue. At the same time, the mohel who has done the circumcision, he is going to recite some supplications by praising God, as well as praying for the boy's welfare. And after that, immediately the name of the boy will be announced. Now, the most important part of this process after the circumcision, it is the name of the boy. So they believe that the Jews, they believe that the most important name that a boy should be called, it is the name of David. And here they call him the child with the name David, son of Abraham. And of course, that is a kind of honor, and the child will be blessed later on by the Torah. And they believe that this name will be written on the tombstone at death. It means that that is the name that the child is going to take after the circumcision process is taking place. I mean, that kind of ritual, it is very important for the life of the Jew. And of course, during the time when the circumcision ceremony, it is taking place, the most important part here, it is that those who are gathered there to commemorate this kind of celebration, they have to exclaim at the same time the following citation here: just as he has entered the covenant, so may he enter the study of Torah, the wedding canopy and good deeds. Thus a life cycle is outlined, which all the adults confirm through their own lives. It means that the other rituals will come after the child has entered the covenant of Abraham. That is through the circumcision. And the more when we, I mean, that is meant for the boy. When the boy he is circumcised. And then what about the girl? How the girl it is named? According to them, they have to follow the tradition that the girl, she is brought to the synagogue during the Sabbath service. And during that time, the father is called up to the Torah. It means that he is going to recite the text from the Torah, and it is like in the presence of the Torah, the girl, she will be named in the synagogue. However, in the recent times, not all of them follow these rituals. Why? Because in the contemporary time, many of them do not follow religious practices according to Judaism. And here, during that particular time, the term that is used here, Simhat Bet ceremony, joy, the birth of a daughter. It means for them, when a baby girl, it is born, it is a kind of joy as well as the birth of the boy. So both of them are considered, according to Judaism, equally. Therefore, both of them are brought in the presence of the Torah during the naming ceremony. Another important ceremony that the Jewish, if we said that the Jewish children have to go through at the early stage of their life, it is bar and bat mitzvah. So these are the bar and bat mitzvah. These are certain laws that they have to go through, and they have to follow these commandments. And this is considered as the initiation ceremony when both of them will come and start to study the Torah. It is like how the child is named, and when he grows older at the age of 3 or 4 years old, and according to this custom, so they have to start, reading the Torah by knowing the letters. And according to this tradition, so they said that the child find and trace the letters of his name, which are covered with honey. It means that when he starts to study Torah traditionally, and that this act, according to them, why the honey is mentioned, because that symbolizes the hopes for the sweetness of life, that the child, both the son and the daughter, will dedicate themselves to the study of Torah and follow the commandments. And beside that, later on when the child will become older, then he'll be instructed according to the teachings of Judaism. And he has to follow the law of Judaism by attending the community at the age of 13. So it means that when he reaches the age of 13, then child has become matured in order to enter the halakhic community. And here how this bar mitzvah and bat mitzvah are taking place for the boy, it is at the age of 13. You see that they start through by knowing the letters of the Torah, reading the Torah, and when they become mature to enter the mitzvah community, related to law and to fulfill this responsibility, the whole process will take place, within certain years. Now the boy is going to be accepted as a son of the commandment at the age of 13, whereas the girl, she will be accepted at the age of 12 or 13, and they will go through this initiation rites or ritual, and she'll be considered as a daughter of the commandment. It means that she is going to be bound according to the laws of the Torah. And immediately after this, both of them, they will be able to observe the halak, the Jewish law. And when they go through this ritual, that is bar mitzvah and bat mitzvah, this will enable, if we say bar mitzvah, will enable the boy to perform all the laws, and that shows that he has reached the age of full responsibility. It means that now he can uphold the responsibility by himself. And this symbolizes at the same time that the boy it is called up to the Torah by attaining of his majority at that particular moment when the father utters a blessing commemorating this transition of the adulthood. It means that at that particular time, when he becomes 13 years old, he'll be called to read the Torah. Then this symbolizes the change of his life. It means that he's entering the circle of life related to the responsibility. So he becomes full responsible about his actions. And the girl, according to the tradition, she will be able to join this bat mitzvah at the age of 12 years and 1 day. According to them, that is the time that she will become matured and the menses will start. So during this particular time, according to the tradition, she has to take care of herself in order to clean herself from this menstruation purity. And she has to stay at home during this period of time. However, in the recent, in the contemporary time, maybe they do not follow properly this traditional related to the sacred text. But still, when you look at some of the groups that are liberal, for example, bat mitzvah ceremony has been developed to mark the rites of initiation. It means that when a Jewish girl or girl, she will be able to enter the halakhic community, and she will be able to uphold her responsibility, and she will become independent at that particular stage. And during this time, it is like, according to the traditional service, depends on the strictness of the group. It means that the ceremony, it will take part in the light of the group of people that are involved in this ceremony. However, some communities give the girl the same Torah ceremony as a boy. So they are not separating between the ceremony that is done with the boy and the ceremony that is done with the girl. So they can use the same book while dealing with both bat mitzvah and the bar mitzvah. The most important thing here, according to them, others only give her some ritual part in the Friday evening service, as far as the girl is concerned. Whereas others limit this involvement of some celebratory action outside the framework of the halakha. It means that even during the halakhic community that she is entering, so they said that this can be done even outside that process. Another important thing that what we have seen now, it is the first that commemorates the birth of the child, then the circumcision ceremony will take place. Then later on, this will lead to the maturity of the child, that is bat mitzvah and bar mitzvah for both boy and a girl. And later on, the most important part in the life of a Jew, it is marriage. This is a very happy moment, but still, according to religion, they have to follow certain procedures in order to make this a successful, practice, if we said, or ceremony, and to be blessed by God. So the most important thing during this particular ceremony, it is that they have to go through this wedding canopy. It means that when they go through this wedding canopy, they can have this canopy inside of the the synagogue or outside or at the entrance, or even nowadays they can do it in other places as well. But the most important part of this wedding canopy, it is that this will change the life of the Jew. So it means that this is considered as a personal, a social tradition that will make a Jew responsible for the establishment of his family, as well as to take care of the welfare of his family and the community. And here, how the process will take place, where both of them, the male and female, they are going to be tied with this the marriage ceremony or contract that will take place, and they believe that this is the first mitzvah at the Torah that will be completed by them. The first mitzvah or the law of the Torah that is to be fruitful and multiply. So if we refer to Genesis, when God created Adam and Hawa, then out of them, he multiplied them. So multiplication will take place through the wedding ceremony. So that is very important for the Jewish community. However, when you look at the earlier times, and even some of them, they try to practice this arranged marriage among the peer groups. So still among at the early stage, marriage in Judaism will take place through the arranged marriage. However, today, especially the liberal Jews, they do not follow this kind of procedure, but still there are some traditionalists who follow this kind of marriage. And at that particular moment, the bridegroom will not see his bride until near or no on the wedding day. It means that the both of them are not allowed to see each other. They will allow to see each other perhaps near to the wedding day, wedding ceremony day, or on the day of the ceremony. However, nowadays, both of them, they have become a bit flexible when it comes to the relationship between them. And when you look at the Talmudic times, the most important thing during this the process of the wedding ceremony, it is the Kiddushin or Erusin, that is betrothal, that is the act that will take place, or the covenant, and this will go through 2 stages. Some of them will combine these 2 stages together. If we see that at the early stage, for example, in the post-Modern period, and are assimilated together in the present Jewish wedding marriage ceremony. It means that Kiddushim and the nuptials will be combined together, and they will be celebrating all this during the wedding ceremony. The later formally begins if we say the wedding ceremony begins with what? According to them, that both of them, they will, bridegroom and the bride, they have to be separated, and they have to take a ritual ablution. That is a traditional practice. And when, according to the traditional celebration of the Kiddushim, that is that the document should be produced in the presence of the witness. It means that the contract will take place, and a document will be issued in order to make sure that these young people, they will live together, and they have a legal relationship between themselves. And this document, as it is mentioned here, is going to be read at the ceremony itself, along with the 7 blessings that is related to the beauty of creation and the joys of the companionship. It means that those who are present there, they are going to ask for the blessings from God to be on this new couple. And the most important thing during this wedding ceremony, you see they have these customs that they do follow. For example, the bridegroom, he's going to put on a white kittel, that is it is made special for that particular moment. And what does it mean according to them? And recite traditional marriage formula. So at that particular moment, it means that he has taken up the responsibility to establish his family. So what he's supposed to say, you are betrothed to me with this ring in accordance with the laws of Moses and Israel. It means that this is a contract that will take place between them. And this ceremony continues on according to their tradition. They believe that the couples, they are going to have cups full of wine, according to some of the sects, especially the Ashkenazi group. And the groom is going to break the glass, like what you see here. So here is when the bridegroom is going to put on this white kettle, and here when the bridegroom is going to break the glass. So here they have different explanation about breaking of the glass. They do believe that when a person will do this, the bridegroom, when he breaks the glass, it means that he's going to defend himself from the evil spirits. Another interpretation says that this recalls the sadness of the temple's destruction and it is a kind of moments of joy when he breaks the glass. But some others, they said that by breaking the glass, it shows that with the wine, it's always a sign of plenty. It means that this will be, it shows that this couple, they have plenty, let's say, and they will be blessed with that. This is how do they believe. And the wedding ceremony goes on. According to some custom, they perform this during the nightfall. Why do they perform this wedding ceremony? Why do they prefer this to be during the nightfall? According to them, they believe that while looking at the stars, that symbolizes the divine promises of Abraham when he had the covenant with Abraham and blessed him with descendants. That they believe that the descendants of Abraham will be numbered out like the stars in the sky. And some of them prefer to have it on Tuesday. Why on Tuesday? Because they believe that on the Tuesday, the second day of the creation, when God saw that it was good on that day. It means that that day, according to the creation, it is good after God created everything. And in certain periods, they do associate this with death or unfulfillment. Marriages may not be performed. It is like if a person will die during that particular time, if a Jew will die, then marriages will not be performed. They have to postpone marriages. We can see that even in some other communities, they do follow this kind of custom. Whereas for Muslims, we don't have to, because we know that everything is predestined by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the most important thing here, during that period of time, they believe that one of the special law is to praise the bride and entertain the bridegroom. It is that the people that are gathered for that particular ceremony, they have to do their best in order to please both the bride and the bridegroom. So it means that they are going to dance during that particular time. They are going to come out with mocking songs, and that is a continuous, let's say, event that they are going to have a joyful moments during that particular time. And of course, in some groups, it is strictly traditional that they are going to perform this traditional dance by males and females in separate groups. And the bridegroom and bride are going to to sit on the chair, and the people are going to circle around them. It means that both the couple will be sitting on the chair, maybe in the middle, and the guests, they are going to dance around them in order to entertain them. We can see that in some other groups of people, they do have this kind of custom. And of course, I mean, this it is extended. How is the wedding ceremony? It is extended when the friends in different parts that are related to the couple, they may be invited in order to honor the couple and for to get the blessings, because I believe that this is where the 7 blessings of the marriage ceremony are recited by honored guests. It means that they do invite the close relatives, their friends and guests, and when the wedding ceremony is taking place, then these blessings will be recited. And according to the teachings of the Torah, during that particular time, the mitzvah, that is a very important law for them, it is to make the bridegroom rejoice in his bride, is fulfilled. It means that the covenant at Sinai was imagined by the ancient rabbis as a wedding between God and Israel. So that is how they thought, with the Torah as the ketubim and Moses the go-between. A deeper theological background is conveyed by the marriage occasion. And some of them, they look at it from the mystical perspective or Sufi perspective. They do provide this kind of interpretation, understanding that both male and female, they are going to be united by this wedding ceremony. And of course, that the most important thing here, that they can protect themselves from evil acts. Now, another important thing that, as far as the Jewish rites and rituals, these are related to certain festivals. These certain festivals that commemorate the most important thing is one of them. It is Purim, and this festival occurs annually on the 14th day of the month of Adar. That is very important celebration for the Jewish community, because they do commemorate, according to the Bible, it goes back to the Esther, when the Jewish people were put to death by the king Ahasuerus, and that is because of a Jew, Mordecai, who did not want to bow before him. And the decision was taken when the Haman casted the lottery, and that is the Pur, because of that is the Purim lottery, and according to that lottery, he chose the 13th of March, that is the time when the Jewish people were going to be executed. However, that is the Queen Esther, a Jew. She was a Jew. Then she was the wife of the king. Then she managed to convince the king to save her life and the life of her people. And after that, the king decided to execute Haman instead of the Jewish people. I mean, that is the most important thing here, that during that particular time, the Jewish people were put to death, and with the help of Esther, being the wife of the king, she managed to convince him, and the Jewish people were saved. And this is, they do commemorate this festival every year. And you see how during that particular festival, they do drink wine, and they become very drunk, according to the tradition, that they will not be able to see the king. They will not be able to see the king. So that is a very important. Somebody may ask whether wine it is allowed or not. So for that particular occasion, they do drink wine in order to commemorate that. Because if it means, like, when a person will drink wine, that he becomes so drunk that he will not be able to differentiate between Mordecai and Haman. So Mordecai is representing the Jewish community, and he represents the good, who disobeyed to bow to the king. And Haman is a representative of the king, and according to them, they believe that he represents evil, because he is the one who decided to put the Jewish people to death after Mordecai did not want to bow to the king. However, some of the Jewish sages during that particular period, they said that Purim is the holy and the joyous that will be the only holiday celebrated in the world to come. It means that this Purim celebration, it will continue in the world to come, beside celebrating this in this world. And another important festival that the Jewish people do celebrate, it is the Passover. So what does the Passover commemorates? According to them, the Passover commemorates the time when the children of Israel were liberated from the oppression of the Pharaoh. So if you read in the biblical, in the Hebrew Bible, if you go to the book of Exodus, you can find that during that particular time, God sent to them Moses in order to save them from the oppression of the Pharaoh. I mean, that is, as I mentioned to you, that the most important festivals, when I look at this Passover business festival, beside the other festival that the Jewish people celebrate, as you see here in this picture here, there are plenty of foods, but for them, as I mentioned previously, that this commemorates the Passover, the time when Moses brought the children of Israel out from Egypt. So it means that during the time, even the type of bread that they are taking here, it is very rough, as it is mentioned here. So that kind of a table that they are going to set, and they are going to have these types of food that will be related to this commemoration. It means that they used to go during difficulties in that particular period of time, and they do every year try to remember those difficulties. So here you can see that the table that they are going to set is based on the related to the Jewish ritual, and they call this seder. And there are many laws that are involved while they are setting this table. When you look at for example, the crackers that they use, like the bread that is very rough that they eat, and the caroset, it is a mixture of fruits, nuts, and wine. You see that they eat together here, and bitter herbs. You see here the bitter herbs, according to them, they believe that through this they are going to remember the difficulties that the Jewish people used to go through during that past particular period of time. And we hear the most important part of this celebration, in order to commemorate that they were liberated from the bondage of the Pharaoh. So here, during this particular ceremony, they do attract the children in order to show to them this kind of remembrance, and this will continue from one generation to another generation. Now you can see here the type of food that they have set in this table, and at the same time they do read parts from the Torah. And of course, this is an over an eight-day period. So it means that this kind of celebration, it is going to last for almost more than 1 week. And the food that they are going to eat, and during this time, as I mentioned, in order to commemorate this kind of difficulties that the Jewish people went through, you see the yeast products are going to be eaten during this time. So I mean the yeast product, the bread, the rough bread is going to be used in order to show that kind of devotion as well to their community, as well as to understand the hardship that the Jewish people used to go through. And another important celebration for the Jewish people, it is the Shavuot, and it is the festival of weeks. Of course, it is almost 7 weeks, and it commemorates the harvest. So that is related to the agriculture festival, when the Jewish people are going to harvest their fruits, and they believe that this the fruits is related to the fruits of the harvest that they get it from God. And that is the first place how this function is going to take place. You see here the wheat, that if we go back during the time of Ruth, she was not a Jew, but she married a Jew during the time, if you read the Bible, she was married during the time of this celebration, agriculture celebration, and according to them, they believe that the angel came and helped Ruth to get married, and that was a kind of prophecy shown to the mother-in-law of Ruth. She was a Jew. And here in the second place, it commemorates Israel's receiving the law from God at Mount Sinai. It means that the first thing that they are going to have this festival in order to celebrate the harvest. At the same time, they are going to remember the time that God gave these commandments to Moses when he went up to the mountain Sinai. So that is very particular. And of course, I mean, this kind of celebration will bring the Jewish people together. And as you can see here, all the members of the community are involved. And another important festival that the Jewish people do celebrate, it is Rosh Hanash, Rosh Hashanah, Rosh Hashanah. That is the Jewish celebration that commemorates the beginning of the new year. And according to them, this is the beginning of other festivals and celebrations. Why? Because this commemorates the high holidays that will come after this new year. And in Rosh Hashanah, what do the Jewish people do? So they do involve themselves in the reading of the Bible, and that is the time that they are going to repent for what they have done. It is like a process that the Jewish people go through it in order to reflect what they have done and to ask for repentance. And they do believe that during this period of time, that the good deeds of the Jews who have acted righteously will be written in the book of life, and those who have acted evilishly or they are weak, then they will be written in the book of death. That is how they believe, you know. At the same time, you see here, this is the shofar that is going to be blown. It is the ram's horn. It is like a musical instrument that is used. It has been used by the Jewish people throughout their life since the very beginning. However, according to the Jewish philosopher Moses Maimonides, he says that this kind of musical instrument that is shofar, that is blown by any Jew, it shows that awake from your slumbers, you who have fallen asleep, and reflect on your deeds. It means like when this shofar is blown, that this reminds the members of the Jewish community to be awakened and to act righteously. It means that they have to know what they are supposed to do by acting according to the laws of the Torah. And at the same time, during this particular festival, they do eat something sweet as a beginner or forerunner, or a sweet in order to show that there is a sweet year ahead. This is how they believe. You know? Another festival, it is Yom Kippur, or the Day of Atonement. You see here in this picture here that the Jewish people are involved in the reading of the Torah. So they're going to isolate themselves in a particular room where they are going to read the Torah and ask for forgiveness. This is done individually and collectively, as it is seen here. And during that part of, during this festival, the Jewish people are going to abstain themselves from intimate relationship, or even from washing and wearing perfume. It means that this is a continuous festival that, according to them, it is celebrated on the 9th of Tishri, 10 days after Rosh Hashanah. It means that it is a day of making amends and asking forgiveness. It means like this kind of festival, it will last for one day, and during this particular day, the Jewish people will focus on the reading or reciting of the Torah, and they'll ask for forgiveness. When you look at the ancient times, according to them, they believe that the high priest set foot into the Holy of Holies of the Temple of Jerusalem. It means that there was a particular room that others will be forbidden to enter during this particular time. And you see here, they believe that this is the wall that has been remained from the Temple of Solomon, and they go there and they recite parts from the Torah, and they ask for forgiveness. That is how they believe. And another festival that is very important for the life of the Jews, it is Sukkot, and it is in the 8-day festival. It means that starting 4 days after Yom Kippur. It means that after Yom Kippur, they will start Sukkot. As we have seen here, the Jewish festivals, they will be following up one another. And this is very remarkable in the life of the Jewish members of the Jewish community. And it is marked by a building. You see here, they build this canopy here, or if we say that the stall or a booth that is a Sukkot is a booth that is going to be built by them here. And sometimes even they will eat with the families and sleep here, you know. So why this is, what does this commemorate? This commemorates when the Israelites, they came out from Egypt, and they built this Sukkot or booths in order to protect themselves. You know, this is how they were dwelling after that. And 4 types of plant are used in order to build this booth: a palm branch, a sprig of myrtle, a willow leaf, and a citron are waved by celebrants to acknowledge God's bounty. It means that during this particular time, you see here the picture here. So citron, the willow leaf, and the palm branches are held by everyone in order to commemorate and acknowledge the bounties of God on the Jewish community. And another important celebration that the Jewish people celebrate, it is another important festival, and they consider this as the festivals of lights, Hanukkah. So that commemorates, according to them, purification of the second temple in Jerusalem by Judas Maccabeus in 165 BC, after the distraction by the Hellenistic monarch Activius the fourth Epiharis. It means that this is going to take place on the 25th of Kislev in December and lasting for 8 days. You see, it is a very long festival. So what do they do during this particular festival? According to them, they observe this lightning of Hanukkah, a 9-branch candelabrum. This is the 9-branch candelabrum. This commemorates a Talmudic story of how a 1-day supply of oil miraculously burned in the temple for 8 full days until new oil could be obtained. It means that this goes back to that kind of tradition. And during that particular time, gift giving, card playing, and the 4-sided spinning top known as the reed are also associated with Hanukkah. So this is the one here. So they believe that according to that tradition, that this lasted for the period of 8 days, because they didn't have the oil supply in the temple. So it means that this was lightening the temple for a period of 8 days. Now these were the major, if we say the major rituals and festivals that they have to be practiced by the Jewish community. And as we have seen here, throughout the year, they have many celebrations, as well as they do observe certain laws that are related to this celebration or festivals. Beside having the rituals that what we have mentioned at the beginning, that is the ritual after the birth, that commemorates the birth of the child, and after 8 days, when the child is going to be named, the circumcision ritual will take place. Then we have mentioned bar mitzvah and bat mitzvah. This commemorates the initiation ritual that shows that a child is fully responsible and he can join the halakha community and he can follow the Jewish law. And later on, we discussed the ceremony, the wedding ceremony, that everyone will enter through this wedding canopy that commemorates the beginning of independent life, where a Jew is going to establish his own family, and he will support his family as well as the community. And others we have mentioned other festivals that are very important for the life of the Jewish community or the members of the Jewish community. Now, another important issue that we have to discuss as far as Judaism is concerned, when we look at what is happening in the contemporary Judaism, we know that the Jewish people, in order to survive, they were living in diaspora for almost 2,000 years. Then at the beginning of the 20th century and at the end of the 19th century, the Jewish people were thinking for establishment of the Israel or the state of Israel. And that is how the term Zionism came into existence, where the Jewish people coming from different backgrounds, they came together and they were led by Theodore Herzl, the one who initiated or took this initiative to establish the state of Israel. So they believe that even though Zionism is, of course, some of the Orthodox Jews, they don't believe in the establishment of the state of Israel by force because they believe that God is going to give back what has been taken away from them. And Zionists, they reject the Creator as well as the revelation and reward and punishment. However, the most important thing here that we have to remember here, how the Jewish people, they came back to Israel and they occupied the Palestine. So here, among its fruits, when you look at Zionism, it is the way how they persecuted the Palestinian people, and they were, most of them, if we say all of them are Muslims, they persecuted them spiritually and physically. And of course, I mean, here we can see that the tricks that were said by the Zionists in order to get rid of the Muslims from Palestine and to establish the Jewish state. And here you can see the efforts that they made. So they were asking or others to help them, especially when you look at Europe during that particular period of time, when in the First World War and the Second World War, Jewish people became the victims of these two wars. And that is the reason for the Europeans, in order to find a place for the Jewish people to settle them. So they thought bringing them back to the promised land, that is the Palestine, or Canaanites according to the tradition. And of course, I mean, Palestine, though never without the Jewish community, because we know that the Jewish community was there, had been mainly for most of the years. When you look at during the Turkish Caliphate, they were all Muslims. That place was occupied by the Muslim, but at the same time, we know that Jewish community was still living with the Muslims at the holy site. But later on, we can see that the European Jews began to establish themselves and to settle there starting by 1890s. It means that at the end of the 18th century, beginning of the 19th century. So they started to introduce themselves in Palestine with the Muslims, and they started to live the life of an agricultural community, called kibbutzim. So that is how they started, and they were started to buy lands from the Palestinians. That is how they settled themselves slowly every year, according to what to some literatures. 80 Jews were settled every year in Palestine. It means that 80 Jewish families were established there. And you see here when the decision was taken by the Europeans or by the Jewish community under the leadership of Theodore Herzl to establish the Jewish state. And finally, the Jewish state was declared and established in 1948. And we know that was established immediately after the Holocaust. So according to them, the Holocaust means the way how Hitler and the Nazi army treated the Jewish people. So according to them, they were burned in holes full of gas. And according to them, they believe that almost 6 million Jews were destroyed or killed by Hitler. And those who survived, they managed to go out from Germany and to settle themselves in other parts of Europe. And this is how they thought to establish their own state in order to defend themselves. And here we can see that the Jewish state of Israel that was established by those who survived includes all types of Jews, Orthodox, if you say that, and Hasidic. Israel is our center of Jewish learning. So not only Israel, it is a center of the Jewish state, but it is a center of the Jewish learning according to Judaism. And it is very important for the Jewish people. Why? Because this is the center of the Jewish community that brings people together. I mean, the Jewish people together. So after that, the Jewish people, according to the Zionists, when the state of Israel established, they could easily get their rights. And you can see here at 1948 here, I mean 46, 48, 67, and now. You see here how the Muslims are occupying most parts of Palestine, and later on slowly the Jewish people came in. You've seen 47 before the establishment of the Jewish state, and 67 you see here the Jewish people, they managed to take most parts of the Palestine. And today, you see here today, just only a few, parts of Palestine that belongs to the Muslims or are occupied by the Muslims. The rest, it is occupied by the Jewish state. And recently, we know that they are trying to get rid of the Muslims from Palestine. So it means that the whole Palestine will be given to the state of Israel. I mean, this is very important to know how the Jewish community came back to Israel and how they established the Zionist state of Israel. So here, I believe that this is very important information that we have discussed while looking at Judaism from the very beginning, the historical development, the founders of the Jewish religion and Jewish community, and later on look at the main teachings of Judaism, the concept of God, how it was developed, and the concept of the chosen people, and how did they believe in life after that, and other terms related to theology. And the last part that we have discussed was dealing with the classical sects of Judaism and the contemporary sects of Judaism. And the last part that we have discussed today, that is related to the application of the teachings of Judaism and in the light of the rites and rituals, as well as the selected festivals that Jewish people do celebrate throughout the year. And the most important thing that we just have discussed, it is about the establishment of the state of Israel. With that, I stop. Wabillahi tawfiq. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.